Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Don't leave money on the table, Social Security moves that matter. I am your host, Julie Kern, and am just so excited to have you here today. I am the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor of my company, Bridge Financial Strategies. I am also a certified dream manager. And as I mentioned, the founder and owner since 2009. So today we're going to talk about why Social Security planning matters. So, for one, you only get one chance to make the right decision. There are some opportunities within the first 12 months to change your decision in certain circumstances, but for the most part, you want to make the right decision the first time to maximize your benefits for you and or your spouse. The difference, if you do make a poor decision or not the optimized decision, can literally cost you tens of thousands, even over $100,000 over your lifetime. So it's a really big, important decision. And it's certainly not as straightforward as we would all like it to be, of course. And most people just don't realize actually how complex it is and how many different options there are. So that's what we're going to go through today. So, our agenda is to first go over some key concepts regarding Social Security and also go through some of the common myths that I hear from my clients regularly. Second, we will look at a few Social Security case studies and with different fact sets, different marital statuses. And then third, we'll talk about taxes, timing, and Roth strategies, which you might not initially think would have anything to do with your Social Security strategy, but it does. And then four, why having guidance matters. And then we'll wrap up with what to do next and a little teaser about our next online learning event for July. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, myth number one is that timing doesn't matter. And so this is a really basic myth where a lot of people think you just take it whenever you're ready. So for some people, that might be as soon as they retire. For some people, it might be as early as possible. But the truth about this situation is that timing can make up to a six-figure difference. And I will be showing you an example that illustrates that, a real life example. Secondly, doing a break even analysis. So basically, that analysis involves comparing if you started taking the benefit earlier versus waiting, at what point would delaying your benefits actually give you a larger benefit over time, a lifetime benefit? And then let's go ahead and look at that example. So this is Phoebe from Friends. If anybody knows me, you know that I am a fan of Friends and I like to use Friends characters in my examples. So Phoebe is 61 years old and she wants to begin taking Social Security as soon as possible. This is actually a common scenario, I would say, particularly with single women. They feel more security and safety in beginning to take that benefit sooner. And as I'll show you, that may not always be the right option. So in Phoebe's case, her life expectancy, according to her, she's very healthy. Her parents have both lived well into their 90s, and so her life expectancy is age 92. She is also eligible to take an early benefit if she wants to, as early as age 62, which would be next year. And however, if she does elect to take that early benefit, and this is for anyone who elects to take an early benefit, it's a 30% reduction if you take it at age 62. And for Phoebe, as most people, her full retirement age is actually 67. So that would be 5 years early. And if she does that, she would permanently lock in her benefit at a 30% reduction. So if her full benefit is $2,700 a month, that would be reduced to 1,890 if she's elected to take it at age 62. However, if she waits until age 70, her benefit is increased over the regular amount by 24%. So by waiting those 3 years between age 67 and 70, it's a 24% increase. You divide that by three, it's basically 8% per year, which is a pretty good rate of return. And her benefit at age 70 would therefore be $3,348 per month. Okay, so in her situation, if she elected to begin taking Social Security at age 62, she would receive in the first year $22,680. And over her lifetime through age 92, she would have collected a total of $703,080. However, if she were to elect to wait to age 70, her first year benefit would increase from 22,680 all the way to 40,176. And by age 92, even though she's starting 8 years later, she would have collected a total of $924,048. And so the difference there, whoops, would have been $220,968 that she would have given up had she taken Social Security at age 62. So that's just to give you a little flavor for how big the numbers can be in these decisions. Okay, so let's go on to myth number two. And this one I hear a lot and is one of the main justifications that my clients give for wanting to start taking benefits early because they're worried about Social Security going broke. And while that's not completely impossible, it's highly unlikely. So I want to talk about the truth there. Even under projected shortfalls, most benefits will be paid. Now, when I say most benefits, what I mean there is that it's very possible that benefits will be reduced, or more likely, they'll make other changes to either exclude some people or increase the age at which you can begin taking benefits, which is very likely. So, benefits are funded from payroll taxes. So, everybody who has a W 2 job contributes to the payroll, or I'm sorry, to the Social Security system through paying payroll taxes, as do the employers of those employees. And people who are self employed pay self employment taxes, and those are also to fund Social Security. So there's not really a scenario where those payroll taxes will go away. So there will always be funding. The problem is that the funding is projected to be less than what will be required to fund all the benefits. So that's the issue. So by filing early just to get your benefit locked in, it would obviously lower your lifetime income. And so, what I am always trying to advise clients is don't make decisions like that out of fear that could actually be detrimental to your financial security in the future. So realistically, like I said, the changes that they will make to Social Security will include things like making it needs-based. So it is possible that if at some income or asset threshold, those people will eventually not receive benefits, or they'll increase the starting benefit age, and they could also increase the payroll tax to generate more funding to cover the Social Security benefits. So the bottom line here is that whenever you're making plans, decisions about your future, we never want to make those on things that could potentially happen in the future as much as where things are today, what we know today. And I've been a CPA for 23 years now. And in my experience and in the lifetime of the tax code, whenever Congress passes laws that would pull back on a benefit like Social Security, it's always done in such a way that the people who have already planned their lives counting on that benefit would not have their financial situation completely upset. So people who have paid into Social Security for a long time, even if they're not currently drawing it, are probably not going to be affected or minimally affected by any changes. Now, it's entirely possible that at some point they'll just say, beginning with X year, you're going to pay into the system and you're not going to get as much, or maybe they'll do away with it at some point. But my point here is that there's really a very small chance that Congress would ever pass a law that would completely jerk the rug out from under people who are counting on a Social Security benefit and have already been paying into the system for a large number of years. And if you think about that, practically speaking, Congress is made up of elected individuals. And if any of those elected people were to vote in favor of just completely undermining the Social Security system by canceling benefits on people that were planning on it, there would obviously be a complete uproar and they would not be able to keep their jobs. And so they have a very strong personal interest in not harming Social Security any more than is absolutely necessary. So I hope that helps to dispel this myth. The next myth is that delaying leaves money on the table. So a lot of times people think, well, if I started taking my benefit at age 62 as opposed to 67, I would get 5 whole years at, several $1,000s a month. And that's a lot of money. There's no way that getting a little bit more later would work out to being more money at the end of the day. So if I don't take it early, I'm leaving money on the table. But the truth is that delaying can increase your monthly benefits enough. And also, very importantly, it provides protections for your survivor. And we'll go through a example a little bit later on with a married couple where I'll illustrate exactly how that works and why it can be a really good benefit for the surviving spouse. Okay, and then there's always a break-even point at which you're better off to delay. It's just a matter of what age that is. So for all Social Security decisions, if we could know exactly how long you're going to live, I could tell you exactly which strategy would be the best. That's the big variable that most of us cannot really quantify. We can estimate either I'm healthy, there's longevity in my family, or the opposite, or I have a personal health issue that could reasonably result in a shorter life expectancy. That's the main point that, like I said, if we knew the answer to that, I could absolutely tell you with no question which is the best strategy. So you'll see that as we go through some examples. But in general, unless you have a shorter than average life expectancy, typically delaying your benefit produces a higher lifetime result. So that's what we will look at today. So this next I want to talk about how Social Security benefits are taxed. So depending on your other income, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits may be taxable. And it does depend on your combined income if you are a married couple. And doing strategic planning can definitely minimize the tax impact. So in the chart down here at the bottom, I've shown you on the left for a single head of household or people who are married but file separate tax returns, the income ranges, and then there's the married, which is married filing jointly. And then on the right, which portion of how much of their Social Security would be taxed at those income levels. So, for example, if you are a single person and you make under $25,000, your Social Security benefits are completely tax free. However, by the time you hit 34,000 of income, which is entirely possible, you're already at 85% of your benefit being taxed. So for most of our clients, their benefits are going to be in that 85% taxable bracket. If you're married, interestingly, the numbers don't double. So it's especially hard for a married couple to be under those income thresholds because it's only a $10,000 difference at the highest level. So whereas a single person can earn up to 34,000, a married couple combined can only earn up to 44,000 before their benefits are 85% taxable. So this is one example where in the tax code we sometimes use the term marriage penalty. So and that just refers to any situation where a married couple doesn't get double the treatment of a single person. So in this case, for there to be no marriage penalty, the threshold for a married couple should actually be double 34,000 or 68,000, and it's not. So there's a penalty for being married in this particular situation. Okay, so then another question that often comes up is what if I work after I start taking my Social Security benefit? So you need to understand that if you take your Social Security prior to your full retirement age, which we will abbreviate as FRA going forward, then any money that you earn from working may reduce your benefits. So in 2025, the earned income limit is only $23,400. So after you exceed that limit by working, your Social Security benefit is reduced by $1 for every $2 you make working. Now, after you reach your full retirement age, there is no penalty. So you can claim your benefit and work without, now you'll be taxed, but there won't be a reduction in your benefit. So I created a little example here. Joe decides to take early benefits at age 62, and he's still earning $50,000 a year. His Social Security benefit is $1,500 a month. And so because he is over that $23,400 limit, his Social Security benefit would actually be reduced by $1,100 a month. So he would get under $400 a month for Social Security as long as he was still working. So a really important thing to consider if you are thinking about taking early Social Security. Okay, now is the part where we get to the Roth IRA conversions and how those have anything to do with the timing of your Social Security benefits. So with our clients, we often will implement an annual Roth IRA conversion strategy in the early retirement years because what naturally typically happens, unless unless you have like a large pension or something, those first few years after you retire, you go from whatever tax bracket you were in while you were working down into a much lower tax bracket. However, once Social Security begins, those Roth conversions would then spike you up into a higher tax bracket. Plus, it would increase the portion of your Social Security that might be taxable. And so it effectively would prevent us from being able to do Roth IRA conversions. Now, you might be wondering, what is the value of doing Roth IRA conversions? And without getting too much into the weeds, basically any money that you can move from your traditional IRA or 401k into a Roth IRA at a low tax bracket will prevent you or save you from paying taxes on that money at a higher bracket later on in retirement. So whenever you're in a really low tax bracket, we actually want to use up or fill up that tax bracket as to the top of that tax bracket with Roth conversions without pushing you into another tax bracket. So that's just a strategy that we employ, but electing early Social Security can prevent us from that being effective. So here's an example of that. So in the ideal planning scenario, this client, his income is 2,400 a year in interest and 5,000 a year in dividends and 16,500 in capital gains. That's how we're raising the money to support monthly distributions. And then we can do in this scenario a $20,000 a year Roth conversion where we're moving $20,000 from his traditional IRA to his Roth. That gives him a total income of $43,900. The tax on that is $2,400 and is at the 12% marginal tax bracket. So in my opinion, 12% is probably the lowest you would ever expect to pay to get money out of your IRA. So it's a good deal to pay it now to get it into the Roth where it'll be tax free forever. And of course, in this scenario, there's no Social Security benefits. So therefore, no tax on the Social Security benefits. Now, in the column on the right, this is the same exact scenario, but if this client were to elect to take their Social Security benefit of $36,000 a year, it completely changes the taxation. So in this scenario, that bumps their total income up to $79,900. That would push them into the 22% tax bracket. So the next bracket after 12 jumps all the way up to 22. So it's quite an increase. So that would make the tax on the Roth conversion go from 2,400 to 4,400. And then the taxes on the Social Security would be at that 85% taxed because of the total income. So the tax on the Social Security would then be 6,732. So between the tax on the conversion and on the Social Security, you're at over $11,000 in taxes at the 22% rate. So basically in this scenario, what we would do is not do the Roth conversion because it just wouldn't make sense from a tax perspective. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to see why this is not a do-it-yourself decision as far as when to take your Social Security benefit. There are over 2,700 rules in the Social Security Handbook. It's very complex. And this one decision affects the rest of your life. Filing without a strategy can cost you literally tens of thousands of dollars, even over $100,000. And having an advisor who's a professional can really help you navigate these decisions with confidence, knowing that you're making the best decision for you and your situation. So, our value is to provide advice that you can trust. And we do that by integrating planning between your taxes, your retirement, your Social Security, and then your cash flow. And there's just no guesswork. It's clear, confident action. That's what we provide for our clients. All right, so let's look at a couple of case studies. The first one is Phoebe. Phoebe is 61 years old. She wants to start taking Social Security as soon as possible. She has stated she thinks she will only live to be age 80, and she's eligible to take early benefit at 62 if she wants to. And this would reduce her 2,700 a month down to 1,890. This is our same example from earlier, by the way, but by waiting till age 70, her benefit would be 3,348. And what we're looking at here is not only because of her shorter life expectancy, in this case, age 80, her actual maximized strategy would be to elect at age 68 here on the right. You can see that the total lifetime benefit in that column is 454,000, 454,896, as opposed to other numbers that are not that far off. So in Phoebe's case, because she has a shorter than average life expectancy, the dollar differences aren't as much. So that's just the point I'm making here, is by waiting from 67 to 68, or even 62 to 68, she would be saving about $13,000. So it's less of a big decision if you have a shorter life expectancy. So what we might do in a situation like this is say, maybe you just want to take it earlier, even though you may give up a little bit of money, because you have that shorter life expectancy. It might be better if you have the cash sooner, especially if she's sick or something like that. All right, our next example is Ross and Rachel. They are married. Ross is age 60. Rachel is 58. Ross is planning to retire at age 65, and Rachel is a homemaker. Ross is expected to live to age 90 and Rachel 92, and his benefit is larger than hers at 3579, and hers is 1874, and they could both elect to take an early benefit if they wanted to. So in this scenario, they have a few options. So at full retirement age for each of them, which is age 67, they would collect a lifetime benefit of 1,674,972. If they waited till age 70, both of them, it would increase to 1,739,394. However, if Rachel went ahead and took her benefit earlier, but Ross waited until age 70, that actually produces the highest overall benefit at 1,784,216. And so in total, by taking the optimal strategy, that would produce a lifetime benefit increase of $109,244. Now, to my comment earlier about why it also provides security, is that if Ross waits till age 70 to elect, but then let's say Ross passes away at 75 or 80, Rachel, under the widower's benefit, can then choose between her benefit or his benefit. So we would rather have him locked in at that higher amount, which will give her more security over the rest of her life. So that's the other additional benefit of not even just the lifetime benefit dollar amount, but that extra security for her in having the higher benefit if something should happen to him. Okay, and then I want to go through a quick divorce case study. This is Monica. Sadly, she and Chandler got divorced. However, they were married for over 10 years. She's 61, Chandler's 63. She's expected to have a long life expectancy, age 95. And again, she could take an early benefit at age 62. Now, in this case, a divorced person like Monica can receive either their own benefit or 50% of their ex-spouse's benefit if these conditions are met. So first, the marriage has to have lasted at least 10 years. Now, sometimes in divorce cases, if a couple has been married, let's say 9+ years, sometimes it's a great strategy to go ahead and let that marriage go to the 10-year mark to lock in this benefit. Because when Monica, in this case, takes the 50% of Chandler's benefit, Chandler still gets 100%. So it basically gives an extra 50% benefit. So it can be a great strategy as part of a divorce settlement if they're close to that 10-year mark. They do have to be unmarried in order to get the 50% of their ex-spouse's benefit. You have to be at least 62 years old, and your ex-spouse has to actually be eligible for benefits, obviously, for you to get 50%. Okay, and then it's available even if your ex-spouse hasn't started taking benefits if the divorce was at least 2 years ago. So you have to wait 2 years past your divorce. But even if, let's say you get divorced and you're 65 and your spouse is 65, and so they haven't elected yet, but you want to elect, you can still take an early benefit, which would be still reduced from the 50%, but it gives you access to those funds sooner in cases where sometimes you don't have enough income. All right. And then the other one I wanted to share with you is a case where someone is widowed. And in this case, we have poor Joey. And Joey's 59 years old and is a widower. His life expectancy is 85. He's got a shorter life expectancy. He's eligible to take an early benefit at age 62. So in Joey's case, he can begin receiving early benefits as early as age 60 or age 50 if he's disabled. He must have been married at least 9 months, because the reason for this is so that people don't get married right before, just as someone is terminally ill and then they just get married so that this person can collect their Social Security benefits. You have to have been married at least 9 months, which is not that long. And he must not remarry before the age of 60, which in this case, he's already 60. And he can receive up to 100% of his spouse's benefit, but in doing so, he would forego his own benefit. So obviously, he would elect whichever is the higher of the two in that case. Okay, so we help you simplify the complex. Hopefully, I've proven to you that Social Security is incredibly complex and not a good idea to navigate it on your own. We have a proven planning process that helps you make informed, confident decisions without guesswork. And so, whether you're single, married, divorced, or widowed, we're here to guide you. So, what's next? So, a few things that you might like to do next. We are offering a free Social Security retirement benefits checklist for you. If you'd like to receive that, feel free to scan this QR code on the screen, and it will take you to our website where you can put in your contact information. And in the section for a message, just put free checklist or something like that so that we'll know what you're looking for, and we will send that your way. You can also use the QR code to take you to our website to schedule your dream discovery session. So this is our introductory session where we look at your situation and uncover what dreams you have for your future that you'd like to accomplish, and see if we would be a good fit for helping you accomplish those dreams. Third, every year, you should download your Social Security statement from www.ssa.gov. That will tell you what your expected benefit looks like for various retirement ages. And many people are wondering why you're not getting these in the mail. And it's just because they have stopped doing that until I think you have to be age 60 before they drop it in the mail to you. So if you haven't received one, you can go to the website and download one anytime. And then let's make the most of what you've earned. All right, so now I'd like to open it up to any questions. Okay, so the first question is, should I consider relocating to a state that doesn't tax Social Security benefits? It's a really good question. So, obviously, moving to another state has a lot of other decision points besides taxes. But in a lot of states, and Arizona is one of them, Social Security benefits are not taxable at the state level. So, you don't need to relocate if you live in Arizona. So if you do live in a different state, I would definitely look into that or reach out to us. We can help you with that, but may not be necessary at all. A lot of states have a desire to attract retired folks, and so they are wanting to do that by saying you're not going to get taxed on your Social Security. Okay, our next question is, when should I start thinking about Social Security strategies? Another great question. So, as early as 10 years before, if you are self employed and have some control over how much of your income is subject to Social Security taxes. So, I won't go into all of those strategies, but if you're an S corporation or uh, taxed as a sole proprietor, there are some things for income tax purposes. Everyone always is wanting to keep their taxes low, but in that 10-year period prior to taking Social Security, you may actually want to increase your taxable income to increase your Social Security benefit. So definitely want to think through that. If you're a W-2 employee who has no control over your income, then I would say at least, a year or two before age 62. So maybe by age 60 would be a great time to start looking at that. And then also just what strategies would make the most sense for you given your situation. And then also, if you're, as I mentioned earlier, considering a divorce and you're close to that 10-year mark, that's definitely a time to really look into what options are available for you and what your divorce timeline or your marriage length, what impact that might have on your benefits. Okay, the next question is, how can I get information about my ex-spouse's benefit? That's a great question. You actually are entitled to that information if you meet the criteria for either a widow's benefit or widower's benefit or a divorce benefit on your ex-spouse. You do have to contact the Social Security Administration to get that. So either by phone or scheduling an appointment at their office, but they will walk through that with you. Now, the caveat I will tell you is that when you walk into a Social Security office, it's very common to assume that the person that you speak with is going to understand all of these strategies. And I would just caution you that they don't. They very often don't understand the options that are available. So you have to know what you're asking for. I need to know what my ex spouse's benefit is at, age 62, age full retirement age, or age 70, so that you can have all the information and then bring that to us and I'll help you figure out what the best strategy is. Okay, do we have any more questions today at all? Checking the Oh, okay, there is another question. If someone has a medical condition that shortens their life expectancy, should they take Social Security early? It it's not an easy cut and dry answer. It really depends on how early they expect their life to be shortened and what their life's going to look like between now and then. So definitely that's a situation where we would sit down and run a few different scenarios and figure out which one actually would work out the best. And again, even if you have a shortened life expectancy, still don't for sure know if you will die at a certain age. So a bit of it is still making assumptions, but we can at least calculate for you if you passed away at this age versus this age, which would be the better option. Okay, well, that was a great number of questions that we had today. I want to thank everybody for attending. And if you do have any follow-up questions, of course, I'm here to help. You can go to our website via the QR code and reach out. You can call our office. I do want to mention our next learning event for next month. We are moving to Thursdays at 11 a.m. And the topic for next month is Advise on Simplified, a painless guide to your client portal. So this one will be most interesting to our clients who have access to our client portal and advise on, but have maybe just been struggling with how to navigate it. So Angela Magby, who is our client service coordinator, will be hosting next month's event. She did one month ago on navigating the Schwab website that was just awesome. So it will be a great teaching and help you to see all of the great information that's available on our portal. Okay, so if you want to get that checklist, you can scan the QR code or call our office and request a copy, and we'll send it your way. Right. So thank you for attending, everyone, and I will see you next month. Have a great weekend.